To introduce our next inductee, please welcome Brian Fleming, former Director of MRU Recreation and Athletics.
Good evening, and Al, congratulations on your induction. Well done. Had a pleasure with working with Al for several years. So thank you for the honor to speak about Al Bohonus. I'm thrilled and excited, as is Al's family and friends, that the CCAA has inducted him into the Wall of Fame. In the midst of preparing my notes last night, I was reflecting on what would Al say or talk about. And, humble guy, he'd probably say something like, oh, I'm just a lucky guy. I was given the opportunity to work with some great people and a great organization. And people have bought into my philosophy about sport as an opportunity for people to grow. He's a humble, very humble person, and you can read the descriptions in the outline today. But there's, when you talk about someone's legacy, I think it comes across in stories. And I want to tell you a couple stories, talk to a couple stories today. But I do want to point out, as Al was highly dedicated to the idea of sport as an educational experience opportunity for students to grow up, to develop their selves and develop their careers. He believed in discipline, working with others, and the ethical, responsible citizen. And that came across in many, many conversations. He was highly organized, he paid attention to detail, he listened to people intently, he wanted to support them in their challenges. He said something to me one day when we were having a coffee, one of those philosophical coffees, that really influenced my view of leadership. And he said, my job is to pave the road for my people. Then they can decide how fast they want to go. And I thought, my thought of leadership at that time was really being that motivator and whatnot. But that idea of removing barriers and supporting people really resounded with me. Al had a great rapport with everyone, and that included his peers and coaches and even those folks in the ACAC, and as well as students. Sometimes that conversation included the proverbial kick in the butt. And I want to share a story with you. A case in point, a student athlete, Chris Galis, is an alumni of the Mount Royal basketball program in the 80s. And he told a story at an alumni event probably 6 or 7 years ago at Mount Royal. He would certainly tell it a lot better than I, but the gist is this. So Chris would say, I was a decent basketball player, gangly 6'4" kid, having fun, living the college life, taking general studies, playing basketball, fun with the girls, all that kind of stuff. Had no focus. And Chris noted that Al came to all their games. He occasionally popped in on their practices to observe what was going on. One day Al pulled Chris aside and he said something like, so Chris, what are you going to do with your life? Seemed like a bright guy. Pretty obvious you're not going to make a living playing basketball. So what's it going to be? So when Chris got over the kind of the shock of his basketball bubble being burst, he was taken back at first. He said that kick in the pants kind of conversation really helped. He and Al continued a conversation around sport and what he was learning from sport, what he was learning about other people. Shortly after that, Chris applied for the broadcasting program in Mount Royal. 2 years later, he graduated. And Chris went on with a very successful career in broadcasting. He was a news anchor, started off in Lethbridge, back to Calgary, went to Houston, ABC network in Houston as a news anchor, hosted Good Morning New York in New York City, won Emmy Awards, all kinds of awards. And Chris would attribute that one conversation as a turning point for him. So that turning point was about me being an adult and taking responsibility for what I had to do. And it certainly influenced his career. So while Al made a difference in Chris Galis' life, I'm sure he made that kind of difference in many others. So there's another story I'd like to share with you as well, a very different story. It speaks to Al's leadership and in particular his ethics about what he believed to be the right thing. Now I don't recall the year, but I'm pretty sure it was the early 90s, 91, 92 or so. Mount Royal was in the midst or the beginning of a very strong men's side soccer program at Mount Royal. They won the ACAC championships off to national championships. They are very, very successful at national championships. I can't recall whether it was a gold medal or silver medal, but it was first soccer medal for the college at the time. Lots of celebration, lots to be proud about. So a few weeks later, after the Nationals, late November or so, Al was reviewing some student athlete information from the registrar's office and discovers an eligibility issue. I see some nodding heads over here. And he notes that one of the players on the team had dropped a class the day before he left for Nationals. Guess what? Part-time student, ineligible. The very next day, Al contacts the CCAA office to report himself, the college, that they had an ineligible player. A player, by the way, who didn't see the field during that time. The point is, he did the right thing. No one would have known, and he expected others to behave the same way. And somehow that came across with everyone he dealt with. He was a leader that I admired and looked up to. I learned a great deal from him, and I know a lot of others did as well. He, I would say, was a model leader. He believed that his role was to teach and empower others. So thank you to CCAA for inducting Al Bohonus into the Wall of Fame. I think it says a great deal about your organization. Thank you.
Anyway, I didn't really know my dad, all the accomplishments that he had done. I was too young at that time to really realize the foundation he had created. So I'm actually learning a lot about it tonight and over the few years and conversations with people. I just have memories of playing around the college, and it was like a jungle gym for me. And I'd run around being like, my dad's Al Bohonus, do you know my dad? And I was super proud of him. And I don't know, I'm just honored to accept this on his behalf, and grateful that he still has a legacy after so many years, and that so many people still honor him and value him as much as I do. So thank you.